Today, there are a stunning 3.5 million children in America's state child protective and juvenile justice systems. And these are a variety of kids who have a variety of problems, ranging from simple shelter issues, they need a place to live, to some bigger issues that have led to 500,000 of them being removed from their homes. And within this broader population, there's a large number of kids with what you could call extreme needs. Kids who demonstrate behaviors such as abuse of drugs, abuse of others, abuse of themselves, or other extreme antisocial behaviors. They're different. These kids usually need a lot more help than the people around them can provide. For their safety and the safety of others, society has to intervene. So, there have been as many approaches to intervening with this population as you can imagine. As a society, we've removed these kids from their homes and tried scaring them straight, locking them up, boot camps, campouts, secluding them, even sedating them. But here's the thing. When we send these removed children back home, these interventions don't last. When you try to measure the long-term success of these kids, more and more studies show our most extreme methodologies have been extreme failures. One study showed that 25% of young adults who had been in state custody as kids had gone on to be homeless. A third lived in poverty. 45% didn't complete high school or their GEDs. Another study showed 50% were unemployed 18 months after leaving the system. For the kids in juvenile corrections, 50 to 80% were rearrested within 2 to 3 years, and many of their parents are fighting the same struggles in their own lives. At Youth Villages, we asked ourselves, what if we tried an extremely different approach? What if we reinvented the way we address these fragile children and focused relentlessly on their long-term success in life? What if we started over, actually believing in the kids who are the hardest to believe in? Jacob's mom was addicted to painkillers. His dad had become an alcoholic after losing his job. When the authorities stepped in and took Jacob and his brothers, the boys had missed 61 days of school and accumulated 47 juvenile charges. When Natalie was 7, her parents became immersed in a cult. Natalie endured severe and recurring abuse at the hands of the group's members until the authorities intervened and placed her with her grandmother. Though she was now away from her abusers, she was far from safe. The second grader had serious suicidal and homicidal behaviors. Sarah first thought about killing herself when she was 8, and her private struggle only got worse in her adolescent years. When her parents split, the family moved, and a friend was struck and killed by a bus. By the time she was 15, she couldn't go to school, was cutting herself, and had attempted suicide 2 times, the last time by taking 52 pills. Daniel's father died the year Daniel was born. By elementary school, his outbursts were becoming more frequent. One day, he exploded. He wrote a note that he was going to kill himself, threw it at his teacher, and bolted out of the classroom. The school counselor told Daniel's mom he was a sociopath in the making. He was 10. These 4 kids have a Youth Villages counselor. And while the traditional caseload in this country is 25 or more kids, in the Youth Villages model, 4 to 6 families like these are the sole caseload. A counselor has one job: to do whatever it takes to create a functioning family for the child. Resources, rides, check-ins, follow-ups, on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If it keeps the family stable and out of crisis, she takes extreme measures to do it. For Youth Villages, back in the 90s, it quickly became clear that believing in the toughest kids meant believing in their families. That's right. In addition to taking on the most difficult kids, we discovered the best and most efficient long-term outcomes came when you actually took on these difficult families too. Now, we knew that while no family is perfect, a well-functioning and stable one vastly outperforms the system, especially when it comes to helping its most fragile children. Why? Families forgive. Families love. Families set expectations. When you're with your family, you're not a charity case. When you're with your family, you belong. Jacob's Youth Villages specialist started by getting Jacob's mom and dad into rehab. She helped Jacob's mom get a job and start nursing classes. The specialist even found the money to pay for Jacob's dad's plumbing license, and she was with them when a judge said Jacob could go back home to his own family. Natalie is safe with her grandmother and is making big strides in therapy. Her specialist makes sure Natalie continues her intensive in-home counseling and makes sure Natalie's grandmother gets a lot of help, support, and direction when it comes to Natalie's care. Sarah moved temporarily to a Youth Village's residential center for intensive treatment, and she began to learn how to express and work through all those emotions. And soon she too got to go back home to her own family. Sarah's specialist makes sure her in-home counseling continues on track and that her successful return to school stays that way. Daniel caught a lucky break too and had his case referred to Youth Villages. He got to stay with his mom. Daniel was diagnosed as bipolar and spent several months in intensive in-home counseling. Today, his aggression has all but vanished, and his school counselor is amazed at his turnaround. Daniel's specialist has even connected him with a mentor. All four have broken the cycle. All four are on track for success. All four beg us to believe there are no lost causes. The results are in, and year after year, the data are proving the power of Youth Village's evidentiary family restoration. Youth Villages completes exhaustive research on our youth after we discharge them, and even 2 years after they've left us, 82% are still living successfully with their families. 81% report no trouble with the law, and 85% have their diplomas or are still in classes. And because the approach keeps more kids out of state custody, this intense level of service and success is also less expensive, around 1/3 of the traditional cost. So it's no surprise that state after state after state is moving to offer Youth Villages evidentiary family restoration to children in crisis, or that national media, foundations, and even the White House have recognized Youth Villages as a model for data-driven social innovation. By simply turning our focus to long-term outcomes, we've learned so much in the past 25 years about truly helping the kids in the system, especially the ones with the most extreme needs. We now know that solving this problem doesn't mean building endless numbers of residential facilities to hold growing numbers of kids. We now know the key to radically improved, lasting outcomes is restoring families into powerful support systems, restoring accountability, restoring trust. We now know that becoming true advocates for kids in crisis means becoming a true force for families.